I think the sound is not on.
We can hear it.
Can you? Okay.
So this is day one of construction.
The sound.
Richard took down all the trees. That's where the house
There's no sound.
is gonna sit.
Do you know how to do this?
How are you? Thank you.
Hi. Markus, are you excited?
Yeah, I like that they start to move earth. It feels like something is happening now.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's gonna be the most beautiful house.
Today's lecture is on a building located about 20 minutes south of here at 1511 Turnberry Lane in Reiner. Some of you already have seen the building. Came here or came there during construction. I had guests from near and far, and some of you sort of put their hands on the building. Today I'd like to do three parts of the lecture. One, an introduction, mostly visual. The second part, sort of mind images for this particular building. We could say maybe some influences that I had in my mind. And the third part, I want to make some comments about the designing, the constructing, and the actual building of the building. I counted about 55 people who were part of the construction of the building at one time or another. That does not include people, of course, who created or made windows and the factory and so on. So 55 people on the construction site. And I get to Richard Caldwell, the contractor and builder, just in a second. But I also wanted to point out some people who are affiliated with Virginia Tech, who were part of it. My former students, Andrew and Stephen, they now operate an office in Charlottesville and also in Seattle, Washington, and they helped with the drawings. Christine Williamson, before she even was here, made sure that we have enough air circulation behind the very dense EPDM, and she calculated and made sure that we did it right. And then also Patrick Doan watched over my shoulders that I wouldn't screw it up. And he also sometimes, when I was not in town, would go to the construction site and discuss things with Richard Caldwell. I want to introduce Richard Caldwell, who today is here in the audience. Thank you, Richard, for taking the time. I know you have maybe more important things to do. This house or this building wouldn't stand without Richard. Maybe it would stand, but not in the way it's there now. Richard studied engineering. He also worked for a while as a building inspector and now has his own company. Hands down, the best builder, not only in town, but in the region. It's very rare that at 10 o'clock in the evening, you get an email with a sketch and Richard thinking about making construction details, how we could solve one or the other problem. Thank you, Richard. What we're going to do, actually, Richard has offered later on, maybe if you have time, or maybe in my studio, he will stick around, and if you want to talk to him, have questions for him, he is available. So let's make the introduction and watch this briefly.
Yeah, this building is an extension of my research on referential architecture. So non-referential doesn't mean that architecture.
So okay, you cannot hear anything. I don't know why, but this was a. It has subtitles, so you'll see what it is about.
Something that every child could do. 3 building blocks, a cube, a pyramid, and another cube. And in the same time, it is something that nobody knows what it is. And between that sort of tension, that sliver of space, it evokes curiosity in people.
So a couple things about conceiving this building. When you make something, not just a building, I would say generally if you want to make something, it usually starts out with a sort of a wish or a desire that you have. In this case, I wanted to make a place where I could make existential experiences. This led to a building idea, so now concrete with a building, of shapes, forms, rooms, spaces, of whom nobody knows what they are. What's the logic about the wish and the idea? If you say you want to make existential experiences, then this requires a degree of unknown. Existential experience exists epistemologically in the realm of aesthetic knowledge and not intellectual knowledge. So you have to create a sort of a sense of unknown and curiosity to allow a human being to make existential experiences. The concept for this particular building then was a non-representational black object made out of a box, a pyramid, a truncated pyramid to be exact, another box stacked onto each other among nearby trees in an otherwise open landscape. And this concept became formal, became a form with the following representations. 2 large rooms, one on the lower level, one on the upper level. One of them very low height, the other one very tall. One of them pressing outward, the other one embracing. One room very dimly lit, receiving just a little light from above from a skylight. The other room lit through large glass doors, facing the ground and receiving reflective light from the ground. A concealed vertical connection of the 2 rooms located in the center. No objects or signs of domesticity. The utility rooms invisible and hidden. An object standing on a platform that separates the natural from the artificial. And finally, a fanal standing in the landscape like it would have been there forever. So 2 rooms, one downstairs, one upstairs. Drawn out, it looks like that. Above the upper floor, a square room in the shape of a truncated pyramid. In the lower floor, a large room in the middle, 2 slim, sort of corridor-like configurations that house, in a somewhat hidden way, the utility spaces. In the center, a big column that leads you upstairs. Section, you see about an 8-foot or exactly 8-foot, only 8-foot floor, and then 22 feet ultimately upstairs. I had very clear requirements for the building site for this building. I desired or imagined a more or less flat topography. I wanted large trees nearby on the parcel around where I would build the building. And beyond that, I wanted to have open land. And this is where the building stands. You see that red circle there, that's the exact location. It's a plateau, about 20 minutes, again, from here. In the back, you see part of the Blue Ridge Mountain. In the very back is the Blue Ridge Parkway. You see Route 8 that leads towards Floyd. And that's the larger landscape. What I imagined when I saw this landscape, or what I faced there, is very old land. Actually, that land is geologically the second oldest land on our planet. And I imagined these ancient Indians sort of in a semi-nomadic way, going up and down along the Blue Ridge Mountains. Of course, needless to say, this is old Indian land, the Teton and the Manakan first, and then later on the Cherokee inhabited it. This is how the house or the building stands there now. Let's take a walk through the building. I'm going to show a lot of images now for you to get to know the building and get an impression. Let's move inside. First, the upper room. The lower room, the large room, and the utility spaces. Okay, so I hope you have a sort of a first impression what this building is about. So second part, I want to share some what I call mind images. I don't know whether that's the best impression, but it's all what came to my mind when I wrote it down. So this part of the lecture could be considered a sort of autobiographical. It is such because it's personal. It is personal because it shows thoughts that were swirling in my mind when I conceived this building. What is shown are not examples or worse precedents, as conceiving a building is neither following a recipe, that would be a set of instructions, nor adhering to precedent, that would be an earlier event to be followed. The pictures show conditions in no particular order or hierarchy, nor are they claiming historical accuracy. However, they were very important images in my mind. Shapes in proximity of each other, but that do not go together. Openings that create a foreground. A room where anything can happen. A building of which nobody knows what it is. Platform and pavilion, the lesson of Mies van der Rohe and others. the magic of the wind, the embodiment of the spirit. Marking the land attempts to overcome metaphysical homelessness. Nietzsche's thought building and building thought, inventing a life. Nietzsche's and his philosophy have remained an important source for my mental scaffolding for a long time. Rooms for rain, sun, and spirit. The masculine and feminine. Theodor Krohn, an architect working mostly in Peru, said the following: "Here they live on the floor, while in the north we live between four walls." Krohn made that observation when writing the brilliant essay Italian Rooms, first written in German language. Of course, it was actually not really about Italian rooms, but he was in southern Italy and actually discovered rooms in the non-classical tradition. A building made with one material. Fading borders. In 2021, I was involved or invited from the Romanian people to be part of their project in the Biennale in Venice, and this was part of the project. A fanal. An object of light, hope. It oscillates between an appearance that suggests it had always been here, yet nobody knows how it got there. habitant, building, gods. Heidegger's fourfold, the gathering of earth, sky, mortals, and divinities. The most direct outcome of my recent research leave or sabbatical, I went to Egypt to study sculptures and paintings and markings from the goddess Hathor. The sun disk on the right, we have the exact geometrical replica now in the sculpture that Mark built outside the building. Hathor is the wife and the mother, interesting enough, both of them, of Ra and Isis, the most important goddess of old Egypt. Two kinds of contradictory spaces: heavy outwardness versus fragile enclosing. Here, a room that presses outside, even though it is defined with very heavy materials. Here, a room barely defined, extremely fragile, yet enveloping and giving a home. The final appearance is the direct expression of the task. An object built for speed. Large spaces, overcoming the scale of the domestic. Don't conflate heaviness and lightness. Rather have them coexist. Heavy base, thick walls, heavy roof. Hardly touching. Softness and tenderness. Non-referential architecture. I assume many of you are familiar with this book. It's a treatise for contemporary architecture, architecture of the 21st century. It deals with experience of space, oneness, newness, construction, contradiction, order, and sense-making. The desire for the idyllic, a time and place of peacefulness. Creating distancing effects, not as a subversive act, but out of the task. Another quote, this time by Bernhard Jumi. There is no fixed relationship between architectural form and the events that take place within it. screened and veiled for rooms. Occupied center, object in the middle. Illumination and openings. Building without a view. Buildings that rely on a view are the most boring and oppressive buildings. Singular views are too dominant to live creatively. Looking back at each other or at the building. Self-reflection. Okay, so the third part. Let's come back to the building. You're missing the sound of construction, which is very nice sound. I like that.
So we've got the air coming up.
Ahí podrás comprar hasta milagro. Miras el amor según su monto.
Okay, so here we have a site plan, as you obviously can make out. You see north is roughly up here. Can you see my cursor? Yes, you can. So north, south, east, west. Sun goes up here, goes around here. There's a street here, small street. There are some neighboring buildings, one across here, 5 on this side and 3 more on this side. No buildings on this direction, and all of this is open. It is, as I pointed out earlier, it has a lot of trees on it, and we made all the effort to leave as many of the big maple and oak trees stand. Right now, or the last few years, we reforested a little bit here because we had to take this out for construction and accessibility. You see the topography, it's not entirely flat, it sort of falls a little bit in this direction. That's why we have a retaining wall in those two sides. Here a slanted one, and here a vertical one. And so the building stands on this, in this base, this platform. For me, it's also important, the plan is, or I already sort of learned to live there now, to live on this platform and really, in terms of landscape, leave this as it was before. I'm right now in a little bit of a battle with my neighbors who don't understand that you don't need to have Kentucky grass around the building, but we will get there. So that's basically the site configuration. In terms of the plan, let's look a little bit closer. So you saw a plan before. So I just you already have the orientation. This is 30 by 50, so 50 by 30 in terms of dimension. It has 4 large glass doors with these bifolding doors towards the outside. They open to the outside, so they are like in a way they are like curtains. They act like curtains. We also have curtains on this side. The entire front has a big curtain, and there is another curtain in here to reconfigure the room as you need it at any given time. The idea is to furnish these rooms very sparsely. Actually, there are too many furniture in there right now. Mostly these are the furniture of my old house, and some of this will have to go. That's still a process we are in. There are 3 doors, one here, and one here. And they are sort of, they are not lined up. I mean, they are in the corner, and so there is some idea about how you access it, but there is also something sort of trying to not make them important, so that that space is primary. We have 3 columns, a cross column that is now gold. It's painted with gold leaf. This is the normal gray, and then the big column in the middle that also houses the spiral stair that goes to the upstairs room. And the door here, it's very important that when you're downstairs, you're upstairs, and then you close the door. I mean, you don't have to close the door, but it's best if you close the door. It's interesting, people, when they're downstairs, they don't realize that there's an upstairs, even though they just looked at the building from the outside. They forget about that. And vice versa. And Richard, usually when he's up there, he hits his head because it's slanted upstairs, and he always says, I lose orientation, which each time puts a smile on my face, because that's a good thing for that particular room. So what else can I tell you about these large rooms? We get into the concrete floor. All of it is a concrete floor, hand traveled. We get this a little bit later. There is a hatch, an access hatch. We needed something for getting building material upstairs, and now it is for some furniture. It's sized. Queen size mattress, and the width is the smallest handicap elevator that could be installed if somebody would need it at some point. The entire house is, at least in the inside, is wheelchair accessible. There is gravel outside, which is of course not very good for a wheelchair, but that could be changed if necessary. Okay, so by code, we actually, although we have 6 large glass doors, 2 more are on this side, we had to still have a normal entrance door. This is here. So you could come in here. There is a place to put your shoes and your coat and your bag or something like that. there is a sliding door, a bathroom, wash your hands, toilet, and so on, and then you enter the room. On this side, also a mechanical room, accessible to the outside, so all the mechanical, the HVAC and water and so on is all in there, as well as some storage for garden utensils. This is the kitchen, a large door and a skylight here and a door in here. And really, I shouldn't really even call it a kitchen. Right now, it serves as a kitchen, but it's not designed really. I just wanted to make a good space. So, for example, like the skylight, when you come in here, here's the other door, that you don't ever walk into a completely dark corner or anything like this. And then from here, you can sort of look up back at the building. On this side, one door here, a dividing wall with a sliding door that is, depending on the level of privacy you need, it stays open most often, but sometimes it's closed. Functions as a bathroom, same thing like here. It's not really designed in terms of a bathroom. It's just hopefully a decent space with a large opening here, glass door to go outside, with the usual sort of infrastructure that a bathroom would have. And then, if I would be a woman, and I would call this a boudoir, which is a sort of a space women had, a sort of where they got dressed and got ready and so on. And essentially it's a dressing room with a lot of closet, sort of a desk and so on, a mirror, washer and dryer in here and so on. This side of the house is also has, we will see this in a picture, does have floor heat. Unfortunately, my budget did not allow that I had the entire house in floor heat, just too expensive for me. So I think that's sort of the most important thing. Then upstairs, again, there's a central staircase that you go in, you arrive here, one single room, undivided. This is the hatch, this is the skylight that is high up. And then here we have a second opening. This is not out, it's also out of pragmatic reasons, because by code we have to have egress, so you can go onto the roof. Interestingly enough, once you're onto the roof, nobody cares, so you can jump here or something. But we did. But it's the main reason is there was always the concept of having two windows, one high up and one low. I think that sort of explains most of the plan. So some images of construction, how it started out. You see a substantial reinforcement, footers, retaining wall, a lot of weight. I think this retaining wall will be there for some time. It's 90 feet long. It doesn't have any expansion joints. That was important. Expansion joints, it just doesn't look good. So you have to take measures to get around this. We started to experiment with concrete even before, the image on the left is not on the construction site. It was on another construction site that Richard had, and there was some leftover concrete, and we started to also, whether one float, two float, and so on, and then later on the construction site, also with the colored concrete that we had, different finishes before we spend a fortune and it comes out wrong. Footers, you see, then in the middle you see these are, it's a concrete floor, so it's insulation underneath, gravel, insulation, cover, and then concrete, and of course reinforcement. And what you see here in orange, these are the pipes, the water pipes for the floor heat. And then you see Richard is also an acrobat. He is hand traveling the concrete. The idea that I have is that it is hand traveled. So the trowel is a tool, and you just sort of make this movement, and you go in sort of lines. What it does, it gives a nice texture to the concrete. The worst thing you can do with concrete is to make it smooth, because then just rather don't use any concrete, then you find a different material. But so hand traveled, and what is nice if a human being actually does it, is you have a sort of a scale of the hand that gives, also that this is it's a crafted material, and human beings are actually involved in doing it. So otherwise, completely conventional building. You saw this long list of people who were involved. Other than the curtains and now the sculpture outside, but from the house proper, other than the curtains, everything is stock material. There was nothing custom made whatsoever. This was also for budget reasons, of course, but it also is a demonstration, or hopefully a demonstration, that it is very, what can you do with materials that are readily available, and also with the sort of know-how and the craftsmanship that is available locally. So normal stick frame, pretty much no steel, conventional trusses to span the big room. Richard's masterpiece. But again, nothing really unusual. We just we were aware what are the longest rafters we could get, and of course the building had the building code had a height restriction. So those are the sort of the two factors that were important also for when we look at the how it's built, and also the particular shape it has. You see. When it's sort of the building in a sort of, if it would not have any EPDM, it would be sort of finished. And what you see here on the right is the beginning of putting a raincoat on the building, basically. So I will get to this briefly. The building is covered in rubber, and rubber is extremely dense and doesn't breathe very well. It is extremely durable, but it doesn't breathe very well. So you have to have airflow behind the rubber, otherwise you get condensation problems. So that was then the next step, and that's what you saw in the previous building. You see now the electricians get busy, plumbing, HVAC. You see here a rudimentary section, and in here, that's where all the technology is. Basically, it's all in this floor and a little bit up here. You notice probably we have almost no pipes that penetrate the skin. Usually every bathroom, to air for ventilation and so on. The water pipes and so on need pipes, and most of it we were able to hide. Also in this box, there's a little bit of technology up here, but sometimes we were not allowed to do by code because the distance was too big. So we had to find solutions for that. The water floor heat unit on the left. On the right is the tankless water heater. Then maybe here an example of demonstrating again. These doors, I think Richard got them from Home Depot. We removed everything that was ugly about them, which is pretty much almost everything. And just kept the bare minimum. We built frames with 2x4s, around it, and then the plaster guy that they made, we discussed it with them. What can you do? And so they came up. They said we can do this reveal, and so on. So it looks now like a very unusual door. It has volume. It is very robust, very masculine. This was desired. But it's actually all very, very conventional. Same with, like with the base, Richard said, okay, we could use this and so on. And then he had a brilliant idea. He said, yeah, they're all ugly that we can buy locally. So why don't we use just the back? Because the front is all ornamented. So we cut it to take the sort of normal dimension they come, we cut it and flipped it. And so this is actually the base, it's the back of what is usually used in other building. So just two simple example to sort of explain also how we were thinking about this building, to use extremely conventional materials to try to make it what we thought, it would appear decent. Insulation, then the glass door arrived. Of course, we also had to protect the concrete floor because the raw floor is the finished floor, and so you have to be careful. Tiles. The idea of the tiles is just we have tiles where necessary. So you see a sort of the tile configuration in the different rooms, or mostly the bathroom. We have two colors. I mean, we have three colors, but there is the gray. I get to this in a second. We have this light sky blue, this one here, and we have the gold column. These are the only sort of exceptions from the gray, that iron gray that we used. Kitchen drawings, sort of drawing things up and then go to the vendors and try to find a decent kitchen. This is all local. Okay, so maybe the most unusual thing is the building is again covered with rubber. EPDM is it's the name. I will talk a lot about this. Interesting to see. It's actually made by Firestone. It's basically the same material like the tires on your cars. That's how it's delivered. It has glue and adhesive that is applied with rollers on the plywood, and then it just basically glued down. It's here you see the proper name if you're interested in chemistry. It's a synthetic rubber that got sort of developed in the early 1960s. One of the qualities, it's extremely durable. So normal sort of these tiles that you see on houses, I mean, not the terracotta tiles that you would see in Italy, but the tiles that we use, they last about 20, maybe if you're lucky, 25 years. This material is supposed to last 50 years, so double. So that is used. And then here, I know this is my handwriting, but this is not my line weight. I think this is Patrick's. Patrick at least participated in this drawing. Again, air goes in here and then travels all the way up here. And so now maybe I have to also respond to the fact, why this EPDM? Why do you do this? And the problem was I wanted a building that expresses the volume. So in order to do this, for example, it would have been possible to clad this building with metal. But the problem there, you always have the flashings that are much too prominent, so it would have accentuated the contour and not the volume. So the idea here really is to wrap the building like a birthday gift and minimalize any sort of when the volume or when you have a corner or anything, how you can make this corner waterproof. So that's really the main reason for the EPDM. It was not so easy to find somebody who want to do this job, as you can imagine. And usually they do the big roofs, like commercial work, Walmarts and things like this. And so they only showed up in the weekend, as a sort of a weekend job to do our building. The color is this gray, and I mean, I knew I wanted to have this dark gray. Ultimately, what decided is the material that we were restricted, and this was the linoleum that is mostly upstairs. And so it was then we selected that particular linoleum color, and then had the color measured and then made paint. So and it was one of the more difficult decisions to what exact color to do, because you have to, in your mind, anticipate how it looks. And of course, I really didn't like it as long as the building was not painted. And then, Calvin started to paint, and then, like in a second, the building came alive. That the way I imagined it in my head. This is the image. This is a picture on the kitchen, that skylight that I was mentioning earlier. Here we have the dressing room. We saved about, I don't know, $25,000-$30,000 by Richard Screw building them instead of ordering them with some sort of vendor. And of course, more importantly, I could get in exactly what I want, the way I thought it needed to be. These are the curtains. These are the thing that I found somebody in Salem who still makes curtains. And the ones on the left are velvet. This is velvet, and that's the material that is in the dressing room. When you come out of the bathroom, you're usually not really dressed, and so that room, I imagine, should be very soft in an otherwise rather masculine building. So that room is very different. Not only does it have warm floors because of the floor heat, it also has this velvet sort of texture. And then the other curtains that are linen curtains. So this is important that they are not blacking out when you pull them, so that you see the texture of the linen, and you can also see whether it's what is it dark, is it daylight, and so on. You can still see this. The curtains at the outside there, they're really not for privacy reason or anything like this. The most important task they have is to sway. We use linoleum. That's the other material I really want to sort of point out. Here we have linoleum for the furniture, the built-in tables, because linoleum is a very nice surface to work on. And then the floor upstairs. They come in different thicknesses, but that's what we have. And I thought I would point this out because today, when people talk about linoleum, what they usually mean is vinyl. And of course, they are completely different things. They're two different materials. Linoleum is a natural material out of oils, pine resin, cork dust, sawdust, and then some mineral fillers, and calcium carbonate, for example, and then it's usually applied onto a canvas, and then there is some color additives. So it's a very sort of warm feeling. And the other thing that the advantage and what was important for me is that it has almost no seams. I mean, it has seams, but you really have to go on your knees and look for them. That's of course, so you have a smooth surface, and that's not so easy to get. Benny working on some formwork. Chris Collins doing welding. The outside staircase gets installed. This is the drawing of Hathor. You see Mark and his assistant placing that, I think it's 13 or 14, I cannot read it here, feet tall sculpture made out of steel. Mark, usually, of course, he's an artist and not works on commission, but I pulled his arm a little bit, and he was very kind to do this. And it looks also really nice in his studio to work with, to construct this. It's the geometry, if you come out sometime, it's quite complex from octagon to round and so on and so on. It will not stay that red. I hope not. You know, it's not just sitting there or standing there. Eventually, it will get much darker, like the sort of natural steel color. But nature just needs to do its thing right now. And this I just took this weekend. I'm still finishing up a couple things. There you see the floor for an outdoor shower. There will be a semicircle curtain. And then on the right, there will be a large table. I just ordered steel. It got delivered last week, 2,000 pounds. So I need a crew to lift the 12-foot by 3-foot steel plate onto these legs. So we will see when we do this. And then Chris has to come, and Chris Collins has to come and weld it. Thank you to the other Chris for a beautiful poster. Much appreciated. And I take some questions if there is time. I don't know about this room, whether somebody will needs to, whether we need to leave. And Richard is here, and he also has maybe good answers for this. So thank you very much.